whenever you're given a physics problem or chemistry problem, the first thing you do is you read the question from beginning to end. Alright, so let's do that. If the ammeter in the circuit reads 2 amps and the voltmeter reads 10 volts, A, how much charge flows through the resistor in 10 minutes? B, what is the resistance of the resistor? So let's look at the first part, and what we've got to do is try and understand what's going on. Look at the information that we've been given. Well, we've been told about amps, we've been told about volts, and in this first question we're being asked about charge and time. Right? So you've got charge and time, and we've got amps. So the first thing you've got to do is ask yourself, what is the formula or equation that's going to help me solve this first part? Now we remember, and this is the real unit for current, for the current that's flowing through the circuit. Remember, that is symbol I. The real unit is the coulomb per second. So we've got 2 coulombs per second. Hold that in your head, and let's just write that this way. That's 2 coulombs per second. This coulomb is the unit for which quantity? Well, it's the unit for the quantity charge, which has an equation symbol Q, and S is the unit for which quantity? Well, it's the quantity time, which has a symbol T. So from the unit we can go to the correct expression. So we can see then that the current I is equal to Q divided by T. Now how you go about getting there doesn't matter, but the first thing you've got to do is write down the expression, always. Okay, let's put that over here. What I'm saying here is it's a very good idea to know the units, because quite often you can get from the units to the expression. That's just what we've done here. Now then, let's look at the problem again. What we've got to do now is ask ourselves, what do we know and what do we need to know? Well, in part A, they're asking us how much charge. So the unknown in this equation is Q. We know what the current is, okay, that's 2, and we know what the time is, that's 10 minutes. Okay, but what we're going to do first of all, before we do anything else, we're going to rearrange this so that we've got Q on its own. And to do this, we're going to use what I call a calculation triangle. You've probably known these by other names, but they are very useful in helping us to rearrange equations. Now then, let's draw the triangle. Okay, that's my calculation triangle, and I'm going to draw a division bar across this triangle, like that. Now then, when the expression is in this form, that's to say something equals something divided by something. Well, what we're going to do is take the symbol above the division bar and put it here. So you've got Q, and below the division bar here, so we've got T, and we'll take the last quantity, I, and put it here. Alright, so you've got the Q over T, then Q over T. You got that? Q over T, then Q over T, and the other term goes here. Alright, and that's a multiplication sign there. Okay, we then cover up the term that we're looking for, and in this case we're looking for Q. Alright, so we cover up Q like that, and we see that Q is then equal to, what we're left with is I times T. So we can now rearrange the expression and we write it this way. We write Q equals I times T. Now then, we're going to write out the quantities. We write down by the side of that equation, first of all, I equals 2 amps. But remember in your head, always, it's always important to remember that the amp is the coulomb per second. That's the real unit here, the coulomb per second. Look at the time here, it's measured in seconds. So when we write out T, we've got to make sure that everything is consistent. So we cannot say T equals 10 minutes, because we're not dealing with minutes here. We're dealing with seconds. So we need to change that to seconds, which is 10 times 60 equals 600 seconds. We now substitute those values into our equation. So we have Q equals I, which is 2, times T, which is 600. Okay, and that gives me 1200, and the unit will be coulomb, the coulomb. Let's do that. That's part A completed. Now then, look at part B. This time we've got to find the resistance of the resistor. So I'm going to remove this first bit here, if you don't mind. Right? I'll shove that over here, out of the way. Don't want to completely get rid of it. And we'll write part B. And then look at the problem again. Well, we've been told the voltage, the electrical potential difference across the resistor. We've been told the current flowing in the resistor. Now we've got to think about what equation or expression do I need. Well, clearly we're looking here at Ohm's law, because Ohm's law is an expression that relates the resistance of a resistor to the current flowing through it and the electrical potential difference across it. Okay, so you've got to remember Ohm's law is V equals I times R. That's the first expression that we write out. Now, what do we need? Well, we know the voltage and we know the current. What we've got to find is the resistance. So we're going to do another of our calculation or equation triangles, and these help me manipulate the expression into the form that I want. Okay, so in this case, whereas before we looked at where you have an expression which says something equals something divided by something, well, now we've got something equals something multiplied by something. Now in this case, the something multiplied by something goes at the bottom, so we put the I times R at the bottom, and the other term, that's to say the term that's on its own, usually on the left, goes at the top of the triangle. So then we then ask ourselves, what do I need to know? What do I need to know here? I need to know the resistance. So I'm going to cover up the resistance in this calculation triangle. Let's do that. Okay, we cover that. You can use your thumb. I'm using a blue dot. All right, we cover that up. And what are we left with when we cover up resistance? Well, we're left with V divided by I. So we've now got an expression for R. That's what we're after. R equals V divided by I. And then we just substitute in those values. V equals 10 volts. Write that along the side. I equals 2 amps. Then R equals 10 divided by 2 equals 5. And you need to remember the unit for resistance, which is the ohm. So, repeat again. First stage, read the question. Look at the information. What have you been given? What do you not know? What do you need to find? Next, what's the formula that the examiner is looking for? In this case, it's Ohm's law. Write down that expression. Then write out the calculation triangle. And use the calculation triangle to rearrange the expression in the form that you want, with the unknown quantity on the left. Then write out the values, substitute them into the equation, into the expression, and perform the calculation.